Let's dive into some additional features found within Google Docs. We're going to start with the File menu over here. So if we take a look at some of the things we can do, again, just like most other word processing programs, we can do the same things from many different places. So for example, if I want to share a document, I can go to File and Share, or I simply come over here to Share where I can do the same thing. New, if I want to make a new document or some other Google tool, I want to use some other Google tool, I can actually do that from here. Open a document. This is actually very handy, this make a copy. Let's say somebody's shared a document with you, but they've given you only view permissions, which we'll talk about a little bit later. You can actually make a copy, take everything from that document and make it your own. So you can actually begin to work on that document as yourself. Again, we've talked about downloading. We can email it as an attachment. We can also look at version history. So this is really powerful, especially when you're dealing with kind of collaborative types of things. So notice that I get the first time I use it, I get a window that tells me that I can name my revisions. And notice as I come back to this, I can restore to different revisions here. So notice I have 2 revisions that are showing up right now. However, if I click on this expand arrow here, what you're going to notice is I have several other revisions here. So if I made a change and I want to revert back to a previous version, I simply have to click on version history and I can select any one of these options here. So I'm going to go back to my original and let's just see here. Click on this back here. Now I'm back to my document where we first started. So that's a real powerful, easy thing to do there. I can move documents to different places, publish it to the web, and also set up my page. So if you're looking for a certain margin, if you're looking for a turn your paper to landscape, you can do that here. You can even change the paper size if you like. Some people really like to kind of get into changing the color of the background. So if I do that, you notice that I have a cream colored background here. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to show you how I would use revision history here. Come here, click on this expansion arrow, and I'm going to select that as the revision, as the revision that I make. Let me go back here. I'll do that again. I have to make sure I select that revision. And and click there, and I'm going to restore this revision right here. It's going to ask me, and I say yes I do, and so you notice that it restored to that 1:14 p.m. today. So that revision piece is really handy, really helpful for you to go back in time. Let's move across to some of the other menu items here. The edit, we can do lots of different things. Again, I can do my undo, redo, cut, copy, paste. You can also do a find and replace. If I'm writing a letter of rec and I want to change some of the text as well as change the names, I can do a find and replace, similar to other word processing programs. My view, it actually allows me to take and switch between my editing, suggesting, viewing, which we'll get into a little bit more. I can expand my screen so that it's full screen. This insert menu is really very powerful. I can actually take and insert images and different things. They've changed this a little bit over time. So if I want, I can come out here and say, all right, let's search for images in Drive. You notice it opens a new side panel here, and it right now is looking at the most recent. So if I want, I can take and I can select this guy right here. Once I select it, it asks me if I want to insert it. I say yes, and it's going to throw that in. Now, just like most other word processing programs, I can take and I can change the size of that. A lot of folks have been critical of Google Docs and how it handles images because they don't think you can wrap text, but notice now that's changed. I can wrap text here and I can move that to different parts of my document if I like to get my text to wrap around it. You'll also notice that I can change my margin. So if I want a larger margin there, I can change that in this little drop down here. So I'm going to switch it back. So adding images, super easy to do using Google Docs. I'll come back to my insert menu. I can insert a link. So for example, we showed you that. So create a hyperdoc. I can do that by simply selecting and going to insert and link. It's the same as clicking right here. I can do an equation editor. What you'll notice here, it'll put a new bar in here, and from there I can actually add a new equation. It allows me to design some different algebraic equations here that are really hard to do with just a standard keyboard. To get rid of that toolbar, I simply come over here and click on the X, and that goes away. Other images or other things that I can do here, again, if I'm back up to my insert menu, I can insert a drawing from Google Draw. So let's say I don't find an image out on the web, I have to create it. I can do that simply by clicking here, coming into this drawing application, create my image, and then I save and close, and it will actually place it right inside of my document. Back to my insert, I can add a table. Again, that allows me to choose how many rows and columns that I need. So for example, I did not do that very well, so I'm going to undo here. Let's say I want a table right down here. I'm going to put a little extra space in there, add my cursor, come back to insert and table, and then I can do that. Now I want you to also note that I can also do that from this piece here, or this menu item here as well. So there's two ways that you can do most things. Let's talk about the footnote. So I can actually add a footnote into this document here. Notice that it's going to go ahead and throw that. So if I take, and it's going to go ahead and allow me to add a footnote for a reference that I make. I'm going to show you another way to do that a little bit later. That's super powerful, super easy. Let's go down to, I can add a horizontal line. So I want to put a line between this text and this. I can go ahead and insert that horizontal line in just like so. And sometimes it takes a little bit of moving around graphics and things to make it look like you want it to. So back up to insert, special characters. What's cool about this is I can add lots of different special characters here, symbols, emojis, different things here. So lots of ways to add other characters in here that you maybe didn't realize you had access to. Back to insert, I want to show you one more piece here. I can do headers and page numbers. So headers and footers, those are really easy to add in. Notice that sometimes we want to add a different header to the second page rather than the first. I simply check here. I can add a graphic, I can add text, I can add both to this header piece right here. Once I click out of that, that header goes away. To access it once again, I just simply double click inside of the header area and that comes back. So really simple to use those headers. I can add page numbers as well, right, to this, and I can actually specify where I want those page numbers to show up. If I click here, notice now that it should show up down here as a number 1. Let me go back here, insert, page number, and I'm going to click on this guy right there. There you go. And so now that adds it to the footer right there. So I come down, there's 2 and 3 and so on. That's going to continue on for the document. As I add more pages, it's just going to add those in. I'm back down here. I'm going to go ahead and click out here again. I'm going to click on insert. This is where it kind of gets cool. I can add bookmarks to this. And so for example, if I come in here, I can add a bookmark right to here. I'm going to come down into here and go ahead and add another bookmark and come down to this guy right here and add an additional bookmark here. So there's 3 bookmarks that I have. Now what I want you to notice here is that I click on this bookmark, it's going to change this link. It actually provides a link to this spot in the document. So just to show you how this works, I'm going to come down to the second page and I'm going to insert a bookmark right here. So what it allows me to do, again, if I have a large document, is jump from one spot to the next very quickly and easily. Now, I also want to show you what you can do with the table of contents here, and because that also becomes very powerful. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start by kind of selecting some of this text, and I'm going to come here to this drop down. I'm going to call this heading 1. All right. I'm going to come down here, and so that it doesn't select the entire paragraph, I'm going to put a return there. I'm going to come here. I'm going to say heading 2. I'm going to come here and I'm going to say heading 3, and again you're going to see why I'm doing this in just a second. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same here, another heading 1, and here a heading 2, and we'll just go ahead and call that good there. So now I'm going to come up here to the top of my document right here, click here, so I'm going to actually try to put some space between the body of text and my table of contents. I come here to insert, click on table of contents, and I go ahead and add that. And you notice what it does. Anytime I take and change the text from normal text to a heading or a title, a heading, then what's going to happen is it's going to actually find those in your document. It's going to allow me to take and go to that spot. So if I click here, notice it jumps me right down to that spot. So a very quick and easy way to get to different places. Again, especially if you're writing research papers, you have 10 pages, this is a really handy way to get to those different spots within the document. So back to our bookmarks here. So let's say I'm going to come here, I'm going to make a link right here. So if I click on my link right over here, what you're going to notice is not only does it allow me now to link to a website, I can actually link to headings, or I can actually link to bookmarks. So if I want to, I can create a linked table of contents up here that allows me to jump to bookmarks very quickly. So I click on that, I click apply. Now when I click on this, what it's going to do is going to take me very quickly to that bookmark area there within the document. Again, this works great for large documents. So now let's go, we've got insert taken care of. Let's go to format. Again, this is your basic formatting stuff here. Bold, italics, underline. We got some strike throughs, so some of these you're not seeing in the toolbar here. We can change our font size here again, change our styles, our line spacing. Some of you really like that more space between your lines of text. Sometimes kids will do that. We can change capitalization. So if I want, I can take a body of text here and I can come to format, capitalization, and I can make that all uppercase or lowercase for that matter. So again, we come back here. We can clear some formatting if we'd like and change that, change the formatting within a doc. Again, that's going to be based on the text that I have highlighted. I come to tools. We'll get into some of these tools a little bit later. Notice that we do have preferences down here, so we can look at the preferences of our document that we can find. Tools, we have spelling. Right now I have underline errors turned on. So anytime I see an error, for example, it doesn't recognize this down here, it's going to tell me by underlining those errors there. Table, again, we talked about inserting tables. Once I have a table in place, these will become active items that I can choose. Add-ons, we'll get into those a little bit later as well. So that's a very quick, easy way to access or use some of the tools found within Google Drive or Google Docs.